Hey, what's up everybody? It's TheHyphenate here, and today we're going to talk about what I think is the best variable ND filter, the Aurora-Aperture Power XND Mark II. Now, most variable ND filters cut about 6 stops of light. However, this one from Aurora-Aperture cuts 5 to 11 stops of light. That's a lot. Now, the two main reasons why you would want to use a variable ND filter that cuts so much light is if you're shooting video outdoors and you want to maintain your proper settings of shutter speed and you want to shoot wide open with a fast lens like an f1.4 or f1.8, or if you're doing long exposure photography during the day as well. So when you do video, you want your shutter speed to be double of what your frame rate is. So for example, right now we are shooting at 24 frames per second. So our shutter speed is set to 1/50th. Now we're shooting with a Sigma 56mm lens at f1.4, which is wide open, allowing the most amount of light to come in, which also does help create a better background blur. The problem though is that if I take off the variable ND filter, you're gonna see that it is too bright for you to record like that. So here I am shooting at 24 frames per second, f1.4, ISO 100. It's completely blown out. Now let's go ahead and put the variable ND filter on at its minimum setting. Go ahead and screw that on, Amari. So now the variable ND filter is on at its minimum setting, which is cutting 5 stops of light. And as you can see, that really did nothing for us. That's why most ND filters that cut only 6 stops of light are not enough. All right, Amari, go ahead and adjust that to where I'm well exposed. Now you could change your aperture from f1.4 and you can stop down to f7, f9, f11, etc., whatever you need to cut the light. But again, you will start to lose some of that background blur. Personally, I love shooting video wide open with my lenses. It gives it a way more cinematic look, gives it a lot more pop to the subject. When it comes to long exposure photography, you're shooting at very slow shutter speeds. Now that's going to introduce a lot of light. Now, if you are shooting during the day and you're doing a long exposure photo, you're going to be introducing a lot of light from the slow shutter speed and from the sun. That's an instance where the Aurora-Aperture Mark II is definitely the way to go. Now, there are times when I need to cut a lot of light, even just for faster shutter speed photos. For example, if you're shooting with a wide lens and you're using, let's say, the Sony a6600, the fastest shutter speed that this camera can shoot is at 1/4000th of a second. Now, if I'm shooting at 1/4000th of a second and I'm shooting wide open at f1.4 in bright daylight, I sometimes still get clipping. I still am overexposed. So I need to use a variable ND filter. The beautiful thing about this variable ND filter is that it doesn't really create a color tint like many other ND filters do. A lot of cheaper VND filters will color your image with a tint, many times with a brown or red, and a lot of them will introduce a texture to whatever's out of focus. A lot of other ND filters also have pretty noticeable vignetting when you get to its maximum setting. This variable ND filter handles vignetting very well, even at its maximum setting. Another very important thing to me is the ability to retain sharpness. Some variable ND filters will start to lose a little sharpness. You get slight blur or less detail. With this one, you definitely don't lose any detail at all. Now, when it comes to the construction and build, this thing is built very well. It's really solid metal around the edges, a nice tension when rotating the ring, and it has a stopping and starting point. The Mark II also comes with a hard plastic case. I've used quite a few different variable ND filters throughout the years, but the Aurora-Aperture Power XND Mark II and even the Mark I that I used before have definitely been my favorite because they really retain pretty much all of the quality. You're not really sacrificing anything with these variable ND filters. So there you guys have it. That's the Aurora-Aperture Power XND Mark II. This is a must-have if you are shooting pretty much anything and you need to cut some light, especially if you're shooting wide open. I highly recommend it. If you guys are interested in getting it, I do have a link in the description where you can purchase it from either B&H Photo or Amazon. It doesn't change the price that you get it at, but it does help this channel. Please make sure to drop a like on this video, drop a comment below if you have any questions, and please make sure to subscribe. I have a lot more videos coming soon. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.